Hi, we're Rob and Zareen. We're authors, filmmakers, educators, but most importantly of all, we're parents.
You just farted in my bowl.
So we're a blended family with 4 kids between us, aged between 11 and 17. And about 3.5 years ago, they started bombarding us with requests for all sorts of handheld devices. Now, Rob and I have both authored books in the mental health space, and we were a bit reluctant just to grab the technology and hand it over. We knew that there were increases in reports of anxiety and depression among tweens and teens, and we knew that you could get porn on all of these devices. So we decided to do a little bit more research, and that led us down a complete rabbit hole. We researched about the fallout from exposure to porn and predators, the effects of excessive social media and gaming on the developing brain, as well as working alongside experts here in New Zealand and worldwide.
In April 2020, we released our feature-length documentary, Our Kids Online. Our film was really well received, featuring in international film festivals and global summits for the safety and protection of children. It was also presented here in New Zealand to Parliament and to the DIA by the Minister of Children at the time, Tracy Martin, as an educational tool to help bring about legislative change. After the film's initial release, we realised that we actually really needed to get in front of parents ourselves, and so spent the better part of a year travelling the country speaking to thousands of parents and educators.
During this time, we kept being asked by principals, staff, and parents for student programs to help educate our children regarding online safety, which we started to develop, and then COVID hit, and 6 months worth of bookings went out the window.
Which was brutal.
Yeah.
What initially felt crushing has actually turned into a blessing, as we decided to take this time to build a one-of-a-kind online educational film series that can be facilitated easily by schools.
And with our full support to continue to provide this vital education to their parent communities and children from years 1 through to years 13.
You see, the world that our kids are growing up in looks absolutely nothing like what we grew up in. Kids no longer make each other mixtapes or kiss each other behind the bike sheds. No, kids these days send nudes to each other, and that's most prevalent with intermediate age kids. Why? Because that's the cultural narrative our children are growing up with, and very few are giving them a counter-narrative. Our kids' first sexual experience is very likely to be mimicked from something that they've seen on a porn site, rather than blindly fumbling their way through it, as we once did.
The police tell us that the majority of child sex trafficking here in New Zealand will happen right under our own roofs, in our child's bedroom, on a tablet or a phone that we gave them, as they innocently send sexually orientated pictures and videos to a predator on the other end of the internet. Our children are obsessed with TikTok and Instagram and developing their online persona or their brand, and they're spending very little time in the real world developing themselves. This is a narrative that leads to low self-esteem and poor mental health. We heard one story of a 13-year-old girl here in New Zealand who is basically refusing to come out of her house because she doesn't look the same on her Instagram photos as she does in real life.
And that's harsh, eh?
Yeah.
That's so brutal.
Yeah.
Many of our boys are stuck in a constant pleasure cycle, gaming for hours on end every day, chasing that dopamine hit. And all the time during these highly important developmental years, their brains are carrying out synaptic pruning away connections in the brain that are no longer being used, social skills, human connection, all the things that help make us well-balanced humans.
We also know that the majority of schools are drowning, trying to deal with these fallouts, a lot of which are happening at home. 3 consistent problems that schools face in New Zealand are an increase in sexualized language and behaviours in the classrooms and in the playgrounds at younger and younger ages. Fights that are happening at the weekend on social media and gaming platforms being brought into the schools, and children turning up to class too tired to learn because they've been up late online or even throughout the whole night online. During our time touring the country educating parents, we did a number of surveys to find out just how much parents knew before attending one of our sessions.
And with one of those surveys, which covered a multiple of schools right over the country, we posed the question, How aware were you before this evening of the harms being caused to our children online? 22% were totally unaware. 63% were a little aware and 15% were totally aware. That's 85% of parents who attended our evening who had little to no idea of the harms that have been caused to our kids online. And when it came to solutions, the numbers are really similar, because if we don't know that there's a problem, then we don't know that we have to have these solutions. 37% were totally unaware. 57% were a little aware, and only 6% were very aware. So that's 94% of the parents had little to no idea of how to keep their kids safe online.
So that's why our parent presentation covers not just the problem, but also provides some really helpful, easy, practical solutions. And that's why it's really important for us to be able to get this information out in front of every single parent in New Zealand.
We need to inform and empower parents so that they don't set their kids up to fail, so that they know how to put filters in place, what healthy boundaries look like, and just how to have those awkward conversations with their kids. And we need to inform and empower our kids so that they can make better choices in the online space. We need your help.
Yeah, funding has and continues to be an issue for schools. Where do they get the money to bring in professional educators to be able to educate not just their students, but their parent community as well?
So we're reaching out to you to ask if you'll sponsor a group of schools in your area.
We want them to have access to everything that we have so that they can give this to every child and parent in New Zealand for free. All the tools that they need to help keep our children safer in the online space. Thank you.
Thank you.